I talk a lot about redeeming credit card points for maximum value and flying first class for free, but today I want to actually show you exactly how to do that step by step with real world examples using one of my favorite travel point systems, American Express. All right, let's jump right into it. What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all having a fantastic day. So if you are just getting into the world of travel credit cards and travel hacking, then chances are you've gotten incredibly frustrated at some point. There are so many small nuances to be aware of and endless articles and suggestions of people saying you can book a $15,000 first class flight for completely free. And all you have to do is jump through 27 hoops, transfer your points 90 different times, and there you go, you can fly first class for free. Honestly, I've kind of been guilty of that myself. So let's not waste any more time. The first thing you have to do is obviously acquire American Express points. Now, my two favorite cards to do this with are the American Express Platinum card and the American Express Gold card, both of which have a fantastic sign-up offer and awesome point multipliers as well. We're not going to talk about those products specifically in today's video because we have a lot to cover, but if you do want to learn more about them, I will leave links to full reviews down below the like button. Whether we're talking about those credit cards or any other credit card for that matter, the most important thing right out of the gate is that you are getting that sign-up bonus by using this card for your regular everyday spending. I say that because many times those cards will have a spending requirement in the first few months of several $1,000s in most cases in order to get that sign-up bonus. And if you go out and buy random crap that you don't need just to get that spending requirement and get that sign-up bonus, well then that defeats the entire purpose of all of this. When it comes to credit cards in general, you have got to constantly keep yourself in check and make sure that you are not spending money just to get the credit card points or meet some spending requirements, because trust me, once you figure out how this process works, you will get addicted to finding free flights, as weird as that sounds, and you may end up falling into that trap of justifying certain purchases just because you're excited about getting the credit card points. So again, please don't do that because it defeats the purpose of this entire thing. Now, once you've acquired a good amount of points, your redemption options are extensive, and this is where people usually make big mistakes, get really confused and frustrated, and end up redeeming their points for a horrible redemption value. Remember that there are credit cards on the market that offer 2% flat cash back across the board without having to jump through any of these hoops or do any of this stuff. So in order to at least break even with your travel credit card, you really need to be getting at least 1 cent of value per point, which I'll explain more later on in the video. But that 1 cent per point of value is really important to keep in mind, because anything lower than that and you were just wasting your points and would have ultimately been better off just getting a cashback credit card in most situations. Like I said, it is really easy to get overwhelmed at this stage and suffer from analysis paralysis, because you can redeem your points directly towards your statement balance, you can apply them towards purchases on websites like Amazon, for example, and you can even use them to shop directly through the American Express website and literally buy things with your points. Those are just some of the endless options that you have, and again, it can all get really overwhelming, but let me simplify this for you. Most of those redemption options, in fact, a majority of them, are complete crap. The only way to get 1 cent or more per point of value is to transfer your points to one of the American Express transfer partners, or in some cases, book travel directly through American Express. Obviously, there are exceptions to that rule, but they are few and far between, and you will spin your wheels for hours and hours looking for the best way to redeem your points, when in reality, the best option is to just transfer them to one of these transfer partners. The easiest way to figure out your redemption value is just to take the price of the item that you are looking to purchase using your points, and then divide it by the number of points that will cost you. So just as a super basic example, let's say I wanted to buy this SD card on Amazon, which currently costs $116.59. Well, you can see that if we select my American Express Gold card on the checkout menu, it says that I can purchase that with 16,656 points. So if we take our $116.59 and divide it by the 16,656 points it will take to make that purchase, that means that we will be getting a redemption value of just just 0.7 cents per point, which, as we already discussed, is not enough. In my experience, that applies whether you are redeeming points towards purchases on Amazon, redeeming points towards purchases directly through American Express, or even applying them as a credit toward purchases that you've already made. It really doesn't matter how you spin it, all of those are going to fall in that 0.6 to 0.9 cent per point range, meaning they are just not worth it, and you shouldn't even bother with them because it's just going to give you a huge headache. All right, so now that we've removed like 80% of the confusing redemption options from the table, we can now look at the remaining two options, which is booking travel directly through American Express and their travel portal, or of course, transferring those points to one of the many American Express transfer partners. Both of these can be good, and I don't want to completely write off booking travel through the American Express travel site. However, you've got to be smart about this, and again, ensure that you are getting a good redemption value, because despite the fact that you are redeeming these points for travel, you can still get a really low redemption value through the travel portal. But let's hop into the American Express travel portal to show you exactly how this actually works. So we're gonna log into my American Express accounts and hover over the travel tab at the top of the screen, and then select book travel online. Again, at the top of this menu even, you're gonna be bombarded with redemption options from flights to hotels, flight and hotel combos, rental cars, and even cruises. Again, there are exceptions to what I'm about to say, but 99% of the time, flights are really the only way to get a decent redemption value out of your points. And just to prove my point, let's say that we wanted to stay in New York City for one night in September of this year. Well, just scrolling through here really quickly, the easiest thing to do is look at the price and tack on 2 zeros to convert it into 1 cent per point equivalent. So in this case, $565 per night would become roughly 56,500 points at a 1 cent redemption value. And using that as our baseline, we know that if we want to get 1 cent per point or better, then it better cost us less than that many points. So in this case, it's going to cost us 80,000 points, which is way higher than the maximum that we just determined of 56,500 points. And that means that we are getting significantly lower than 1 cent per point. And by using that simple strategy of just tacking on 2 zeros to the dollar amount, you can quickly scroll through an entire page and determine what your redemption is roughly. But if we do the full breakdown of one of these, the $565 per night divided by 80,743 points works out to just under 0.7 cents per point, which again, just isn't gonna cut it. There are exceptions, but it's just not worth the effort in my opinion, and you are way better off going with our final redemption options, which again are redeeming points for a flight through the American Express travel portal, or again, transferring those points to a travel partner. As I and many others have said before, your best bet to maximize the value that you're getting from your points is to transfer those for a business class or first class international flight. And while that is largely true, the whole point here is to cover a purchase that you would have otherwise had to pay out of pocket, or to give you the ability to afford an experience that would otherwise be out of your reach financially. So before we get to some of those crazy redemption examples for international flights, let's give you a more realistic domestic example. Here's a flight from JFK in New York to LAX in Los Angeles, and this says that it's going to cost 39,516 points round trip, according to the American Express travel portal. And according to them, that flight usually costs $432. So again, using the quick rule that we established earlier, if we tack on 2 zeros to $432, that means that the most we could afford to pay to get 1 cent per point of value would be 43,200 points. And seeing that this particular flight costs fewer points than that, we instantly know that we are actually getting more than 1 cent per point of value. And we can double check this by taking $432 and dividing it by 39,516 points that this flight will currently cost us. And you can see that sure enough, you are getting a redemption value of nearly 1.1 cents per point, which is a far cry from the insane redemption values that we'll talk about next, but is still significantly better than some of the previous redemption options. Plus, again, in this case, you are replacing a very realistic domestic flight that you would likely pay out of pocket pocket anyways, and that is where the real benefit lies in my opinion. But just for fun, what about those transfer partners and those crazy redemption options? Well, this is where things can start to get really confusing, but let's just keep it really simple. If we go over to the American Airlines site and search for the exact same flight that we just looked at on the American Express travel portal, which again is JFK to LAX leaving at 6 a.m., you can see that that exact same flight is now available for just 30,000 points as opposed to the nearly 40,000 points that it costs through American Express. And to those of you that are really observant, yes, I know that you cannot directly transfer points from American Express to American Airlines. However, American Airlines is part of the One World Alliance of airlines, so you can book flights for American Airlines through a number of different transfer partners. My point here is if you booked that flight through American Express, it would cost you 40,000 points, but instead, if you just transfer those points and booked it through American Airlines or one of their partners with One World, it would cost you only 30,000 points, which is a significant difference. And if we do the same math that we just did, that means that we're now getting 1.4 cents per point of value, which again isn't even scratching the surface of what you can potentially do, but is still way better than the 0.6 cents that we were getting earlier. Now, international flights is where things can get really confusing because there are surcharges and gas fees in specific countries. Certain airlines have a hub at specific airports in some cases. Some airlines might operate a flight under a different brand or operate a plane for a completely different airline. And in general, it can just be really confusing. But if you're willing to cut through the weeds and put in the time and do that research, it is absolutely true that you can find first-class flights that would otherwise cost thousands and thousands of dollars for completely free. In fact, I'm literally recording this from Europe right now and flew here in Delta One first class for completely free using just 50,000 points and only paid like $7 in taxes and fees. But it took me several hours of mind-numbing research and sifting through Delta and other airlines in order to find that flight, and it's not as easy as just looking up your flight and going ahead and booking it, because you also largely have to be flexible with your dates and other variables in order to get the best value possible. But it is absolutely well worth it in my opinion, because the round trip tickets that brought me to Europe and will take me home first class would usually cost $7,000, but only cost 100,000 points round trip. So if we take $7,000 divided by 100,000 points, that means that we get a redemption value of 7 cents per point, which is just insane. Plus, if you account for the fact that most of the points that I have earned come from 4 points per dollar on my American Express Gold card with dining worldwide, then that means that at 4 points per dollar and 7 cents per point of value, I'm basically getting the equivalent of 28 cents per dollar spent, also known as 28% cash back. I realize that that isn't exactly a fair comparison because, again, would I have just received that much in cash back, I definitely would not go and spend that on a $7,000 first-class plane ticket. But it did allow my wife and I to have an experience that we would have otherwise not been able to afford. I know it can feel really confusing and overwhelming, but I promise it is not nearly as complicated as you think, and when it really comes down to it, you earn points with your regular everyday spending, you transfer those points to a transfer partner, and you book high-value flights to get the maximum value out of those points. I'd love to know what you think of this topic down in the comment section below, and what flights you have been able to book for completely free using your credit card points. Be sure to check out some of my favorite financial tools using the links down below the like button, and as always, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it so much. Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.